So, welcome to this Conversion Boost warm-up with Lotte Larsen. Hello, Lotte. Good to see you.
Hi, Ola. Nice to see you.
Thank you for joining me for this little interview about you and your talk at the Conversion Boost in March. So, for those who don't know you, would you be so kind and introduce yourself?
Yeah, my name is Lotte Larsen. I have a conversion rate agency in Vienna. I've had my agency for 10 years. I have it with my partner Nina, who will also be at the Conversion Boost in March, and we're both looking forward to it.
Your talk, would you so don't give away all the secrets yet, because of course we want everybody to show up and listen to your experience and knowledge. But if you could introduce your talk at Conversion Boost to us.
Yeah, so I said I think our specialty is that we take a very deep dive into the users before we start any conversion project. And user research is also what I want to focus on my talk on in March at Conversion Boost. And I want to look at the non-converting visitors, and I want to show with some examples from our own projects how we try to understand non-converting visitors and what type of techniques we use to understand those people on the website that you lose at some point and that say no to your offer.
And when you talk about non-converting visitors, so that is a focus. How do you define the? I mean, obviously, the non-converting visitor is the one that does not convert. But how do you locate them or find out stuff about them? Is that on the website from their behavior, or is that from talking to people, or how do you actually get in touch with the non-converting visitors? Mm-hmm.
So it depends. So it can be using what I think most people know today, exit surveys on the website. And our clients typically, don't like those type of exit surveys, but because the feedback we get is so valuable, we kind of try to talk them into it, running them, and it can also be for a very short period. But since the feedback is so valuable, we kind of really try to do those exit surveys. Then we use email surveys. So most clients have people in the database that we can get in touch with who might have stopped buying the product. So we try to get hold of those. And then I will talk about an example where we did interviews also with people who at some point said no to an offer.
Yeah. So when you say exit survey, you mean that you get people to type to communicate about why they did not want to convert? What's the layer of interaction?
So we ask open-ended questions, and that's super important for us because we need to understand the small aspects of saying no. And we get that by ask open-ended question, and we get challenged a lot by our clients on that one too, because a lot of clients say, but if they said no to my offer, how could they possibly be willing to spend time? Tell me why they said no.
Yes.
And most clients are surprised that there are quite a few users out there or people out there who are willing to spend time telling why they said no to an offer. And I think that's where the interesting aspect comes in, because usually a no does not mean a no for some people, especially those who are prepared to give an answer, give feedback. So we are trying to understand what aspects of do they have of this no, and how can we convert that no into a yes.
Like you say, that many companies, they have a feeling like they're either converting or not converting. But when you say non-converting visitors, you might actually say sort of possible converters. That I think that isn't that the group you're talking to, really?
Yeah, you need to get hold of the group that has a purchase intention, because there are a lot of people who come onto your website and they don't have a purchase intention. They are there by mistake or for some reason, and they don't want to buy, and you can kind of ignore those, I guess. Yeah. And you need to get these people who want to buy your product, but for some reason say no, because there are more of those people, and they are the people you want to convert to a yes at the end of the day.
Yeah. And surely that is what optimization is, that you can actually optimize your sale on the website by actually connecting with the ones that were actually ready to purchase your product.
Yeah.
And so
And I'll show some examples at Conversionboost, and I think one example is particularly interesting. It is interesting because we did a mistake first when we did that. So that was a split test we did, and the first test lost. And we thought we knew the users really well for this website. So we decided to go back again, read the feedback all over again. And since we asked open-ended question, you can imagine that that's a lot of work. Yeah. When we read it all over again, we found out that we had actually overseen something the first time we read it. And we had a huge win with that test by changing just the text on the button, which is very seldom, but in this case we just hit the sweet spot. Yeah. And I think the example is nice because it shows when you really understand your users and why they say no, then you can hit that sweet spot and get really nice uplifts.
If you do that sort of digging in, that qualitative work, and you dig into that knowledge, you actually can achieve those lifts, because I find sometimes that it gets a little sort of like, it sounds so easy when you just show them, we just did this and it just worked, but there is that groundwork. It takes that groundwork to actually dig through all that content.
So we did a super simple calculation once, and we bucketed our projects in 3 different project groups. And then we compared the conversion rate uplifts we had on those projects, and it clearly showed us that the more we know the users, the more successful we can be in our work optimizing conversion rates later on in the project.
Yeah. Interesting. So, of course, I also want the visitors to the Conversionboost conference to be able to go home and copy a little bit, or be inspired by your magic. So, what would be your suggestion for all of us?
I'll provide a lot of examples, and I think it's not about taking that very example and using it in your work, but it's taking the underlying logic that I'll try and transport to your guests, so they can take the underlying logic back home and use that immediately for their business. And I myself like conferences where I can take the insights I get and use them in my business at home in the office afterwards, and that's what I hope to do with my talk too at Conversionboost.